I feel like I'm going through the time tunnel.
It does feel that way.
Wow.
Brendon Walsh in studio. Brendon Walsh, for those of you who are, well, it's going to be a lot of people. Brendon was a regular in the city on the stage and on radio. You've been in L.A. for a long time. Welcome back, Brendon.
Can I say cutting edge, too?
I'm cutting edge.
We were always on the edge.
And speaking of cutting edges, guys, I sell knives now, door to door. So if you,
It's working out for you?
it's a pretty good. I'll explain the whole
Did you bring
structure of
samples?
the business. Yeah, I have them in the car.
Sorry about your car accident, by the way.
Teenagers pushed me off my bike.
Oh, he's wearing a neck brace.
I was on my way home from getting rib removed.
What? Dude, man, this is fun for me. I haven't seen... the last time I saw you face-to-face, we did a show, I think, at the Paramount together, and I feel like that's the last time I got to see
What
you
year?
face-to-face.
Circa...
No, it's 3 or 4, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, at Moon Tower.
Okay. No, that would have been more than that.
Was it?
Yeah,
I don't have any memories of anything anymore.
Yeah, I don't know either. My brain is ruined.
It's a weird honeycomb of mush, your brain?
Yeah, it's got... I remember, like... I don't know. I forget what I was going to say.
Okay, perfect.
That's all right. That accident.
I bet the Moon Tower thing was... Oh, you know what? I know when it was. Because I remember when we landed, we found out Prince died.
Oh,
so
okay.
whatever year that was.
All right.
That was
8
the
years
year
ago, I
before
think,
Tom
now.
Petty died, so I think
Yeah.
we're narrowing it down.
So Brendon was a...
That's a sign of aging, is when you can only pinpoint things on deaths.
You have been really good at poking fun at the world and at people live.
Yeah.
And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. The first time I saw you, you had a mullet, and you were at the Velveeta room, and you got up on stage, and you also had some weird covering on your nose, and you were like a live troll. I started watching, and I immediately was like, wait a minute. At first, people were angry because they were like, screw this dude. Like, a lot of comics in the back were like, who's this a-hole?
Got zinc on his nose? What do you have on his
No,
nose?
it was, I had like a fake broken nose. I think I had like gauze.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. And then you cut part of your mullet off and threw it in someone's drink.
Yeah.
And they got furious. And then a bunch of comics were like, F that dude. He should never be allowed back here. And I was like, I'm positive that was a character. And it was genius.
Right.
And a bunch of people were like, no, it wasn't. That's some guy who doesn't respect comedy.
I'm
or something.
sure
I was like, I'm pretty sure that was a character.
Charlie
And I was like, that was really funny. If you let yourself get in on the joke, but I think enough people didn't because one of the things you've always done great about your characters is that too many times when people are trolling, they do too much wink at the audience because they're afraid of just fully going with it.
Yeah.
Like Andy Kaufman used to do.
Andy Kaufman's a great way to think about it. And you've been a great comic. You've done a lot of stuff for Comedy Central. You've been really fun in podcasts. People will know you from that and that world. And then one of the things that you've done is you have been a long time, I'll say practical joker and crank caller.
Yeah.
And I say that because, well, I've known you for a long time, and I've suffered on the end of some of those over the years.
Did I crank call you before?
I don't think you ever crank called me.
Okay.
You did toilet paper my house like 5 times in a row.
That was, well, you were like the first person we knew who bought, you just bought a house.
Yeah.
And that was...
He's congratulating.
He was congratulating me. Yeah. And then my wife had just started working at the time, and she had to be up at like 6 in the morning. And
she saw it first.
No, Brendon stopped by my house one night to toilet paper the house. And then he came in, but it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And Brendon was insisting on making my dogs kiss each other. And he was like, come on, kiss him on the lips, kiss him on the lips. And I had never really lived with someone before, other than really, Brendon had been my roommate up to that point. Yeah. And my wife was livid, apoplectic, I believe is the word, because she was like, what the F is going on? I was like,
it was a weeknight?
And she was like, he's a bad influence on you. And I was like, why? And she's like, because you know that I need to sleep. And I heard you in there laughing. I was like, well, he's trying to make the dogs kiss. It's funny.
I have a long history of having wives not liking me.
I can see that. I absolutely can see that. You're in town. Let's tell people you're going to be in town because you've got a live recording of your podcast.
Yeah. World Record Podcast. Check it out. It's good. But yeah, it's going to be at the Vulcan Gas Company. Sunday night.
7 o'clock.
7. So it's an early show, so you get home early, but I think Monday's a holiday anyway.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah.
People can go out and party and have a good time.
Come on out. We'll get wasted. We'll make some crank calls on stage.
Oh, you do some live crank calls?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. The pandemic kind of made me not want to do stand-up anymore.
Yeah.
But I still, I started doing calls on stage right before the pandemic, and it was
a blast.
It was the best. Well, I play a prank on the audience. Oh, and you left out the best part about the mullet guy. Well, not the best part, but yeah, I actually had hair extensions put in.
Right.
We were like shooting a thing, and but I also, because the hardest thing to find was I was wearing a tracksuit and I had tearaway pants. So before I ran through the audience cutting off my mullet and throwing it in people's drinks, I tore my pants off.
Jockstrap? What was
tighty whities with a brown stain painted in the back.
Oh God!
And then I ran out of the club, and everybody's just like, who was that? Because that was like
Comedy.
even like kind of before I was even. I think I had just started like doing stand up. Like
I don't think anybody in the community knew you yet. I knew who you were because you used to work with a group called. Didn't you used to host some stuff for Shark Workers Union?
Yeah. And then there was a puppet thing, Egg Family Puppet Theater, and I would like open for them.
That's how I knew you, was from doing crazy stuff with we're talking about stuff that was theater based but was a little off kilter.
Yeah. It wasn't like And then I discovered I had done like an open mic or two when it like late 90s.
Okay.
And it was a whole different kind of scene. And all these guys I'm friends with, I wound up being friendly with. But it wasn't nobody was really my age. And it wasn't very inviting, like to new. It was just cliquish. And I also was 22 and had a chip on my shoulder too. Like, I'm the funniest guy in the world. Why aren't they letting me get on their open mic? And so I kind of was like, I don't know if that's my scene. I went to a few and I was like, I don't know. And so I was doing all the other bar show weird stuff. And then I was doing with Leon and Andy.
Sure.
We wound up doing a show at the Velveeta Room called the Poon Shows, where we would do like sketches, and we had like strippers between sketches and all that. That was the thing I did. I remember the movie Powder.
Mm-hmm.
I did Powder, and I was like total bald cat, painted white.
I remember that.
And I had a suit, and I was doing stand-up. But one of the traits that I gave Powder was that he had 5 penises, but they weren't all in his crotch. They were spread out around his body, and I like hooked up this like bladder system with tubes, and as my jokes were bombing, I would pee my pants, and I peed my crotch first, and then I peed like my chest, and like
that's all thinking man's comedy there. Right?
Well, that's called like slapping something together last minute. Oh, we have a show in 5 hours. I gotta think of something to do.
I know.
Powder
Penises.
Yeah, powder
everywhere.
And penises.
Yeah.
How do you do the prank calls on stage? Do you take suggestions, or do you like people pick a city, or do
I'll
you?
just I just pick things, and generally it's not. I will it's like it's kind of organically just kind of happens sometimes, but I'll just pick some local places. Like I just did some shows with Stanhope and in San Francisco, so I called some local places there, and then in Phoenix, I called a bunch of. There's this game that I play on the podcast sometimes too, called High Low, where you call. It used to be Domino's pizzas, but now they all have this never-ending message at the beginning.
To see how soon they hang up?
No, to see who answers. You take bets. It's a gambling game, and you bet on if the person who answers the phone, whether or not they're going to have a high voice or a low voice.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right.
And it's not necessary. Like it's not like if a guy answers the phone, that's not a lock for
low voice.
Right.
You'd be like, "Hi, this is Mitch. Hi, thanks for calling Domino's."
Have you ever felt bad at the end of one of those? Like, has anybody ever turned it on you? Like they just gotten back from a wake or a funeral?
No, because it's not the crank call stuff that I do is not. It's not, and I love the Jerky Boys, but it's not that angle. Right. It's not like I'm not like get Brett where I said, or like I'm not threatening people. It's generally like I come at it from an angle of like the dumbest, most annoying person is calling you right now, or just like some surreal problem.
Right.
Wow.
Like I'll find the clip and send it to you, but I call.
Do you get
grocery
inspiration from our callers?
yeah, I tune in every morning. Well, but that's it. Yeah, I mean, if you ever dealt with real people, you realize they're all insane.
Right.
I mean, just read Yelp reviews. I was just telling a friend of mine, because I also have fake Yelp review. Well, I had my Yelp account taken away.
Look, we should back up a bit because we were talking about this
all
earlier.
over the place.
You, out of all the people I know, I think you've lost the most Twitter accounts over the years.
Oh, boy.
You've lost a lot of them.
Well, I lost my main one last year, which still stings.
Yeah, I
'cause
lost mine, but I managed to get it back after a long letter writing thing. I tweeted at somebody, a friend, I'm going to kill you.
Oh, yeah.
And because somebody said, hey, if you tweet that you're going to kill somebody, they'll take your account away right away. And I was like, no, they don't.
Yeah.
So, and we were all out drinking.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I tweeted at him while he was sitting next to me, Pat, I'm going to kill you. And 12 seconds later, not only was it gone, but all the accounts I ran through that account were all gone. So for my comedy accounts, everything, stuff for the radio, gone in 10, 12 seconds, disappeared. And I was like, uh-oh, I screwed up. So I had to write a mea culpa letter, and I ended up getting some stuff back.
I don't know. I had my agents try to get it. I mean, I really tried to get it back. And my main account that had like a lot of followers and was verified, which is the kind of what got me in trouble. There's a comedian named Jamar Neighbors who would also had a verified account, and he would just change his account to look exactly like other celebrities.
But he had that verified check on
with the check, and so like at first glance you're like, what is he once he changed it to Donald Trump, and I changed mine. Well, I saw him tweeting as Donald Trump, but at first glance you're like, what, did Donald Trump just tweet y'all are gay? Which is what Jamar tweeted, y'all gay. And I was like, what? This is insane. And then I was like, oh, it's Jamar, because once you look at the name.
Right.
So, and this was like, late at night, like 1 or 2 in the morning. So I said, oh my God, it's so funny. So I changed mine to look just like Mike Pence. And we were tweeting back and forth in the middle of the night. And the comments were, people were just like, what is going on? Like people just didn't realize what we were doing. So,
right.
And Jamar originally, I do have to give him credit. Well, and you also blame him for starting that trend, because it's a fun thing to do.
You're sounding like a kid who says, it's not my, everybody was robbing the store. Why wouldn't I rob the store as well?
Well, so I got it ultimately taken away from was when they, appointed Biden or whatever, when they announced that Biden is the president.
Right.
Remember, there was like a few days where I guess they were counting votes. And I changed my account to look exactly like Donald Trump Jr. and was just like, I was like, me and Eric are putting on a pot of coffee to figure this out. This is BS. I was like, while Sleepy Joe's in a motel, the Trump organization just bought the White House. Good luck getting in, Sleepy Joe. And then I did like 3 or 4 tweets and thought like, I should probably back off. And then when I went to go change my account back, it was suspended. No. And
man.
They, and I don't
There's no apologizing your way out of that one?
I mean, they're just like, clear violation of Twitter. I feel like it wasn't impossible to get it back, but I exhausted whatever, little bit of
Well, you should know, because
you
have been famous sort of in my life, because I have forever said, and I think I misquote you, but minimum effort, maximum reward.
I love that quote.
And we say it all the time, minimum effort, maximum reward. And that's sort of been your motto through your whole life. And so I'm sure you called your agent and said, can I get this back? And then your agent said, can't do it. And you're like, okay. And that
kind of was, I don't know, like I was sending emails and stuff to Twitter, but I just assume, I don't know who to contact.
I was going to say, I didn't know they had a street address.
Yeah.
They do. If you're in San Francisco, there's a building with the big bird on the side of it. There is.
I believe you. The Twitter bird.
And I asked when I was doing shows in San Francisco, too, if anybody was there from Twitter to get my account back. I don't know if I can...
Any Twitter employees in the crowd tonight?
Well, that sounds ridiculous, but this morning we started the show by me asking if any of our callers knew if I'd had a stroke or not.
Soliciting doctor advice on air is always great.
But that minimum effort, maximum reward was the first, when I first moved to LA, and I had like a general meeting with, who knows, probably somebody who really could have helped my career.
Right,
and I
right.
just didn't.
A development deal, like a.
Or just somebody who casts every. I don't even remember.
Did you have to pitch, or they just wanted to?
No,
meet
just
you?
a general.
Okay.
Like when you move out there,
Yeah.
you just it's all meetings, which the pandemic proved that like, oh, you could have not spent probably years of your life in your car driving from the east side to
Right.
Santa Monica just to meet with some guy from Spike TV to just so he gets to meet you or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, you can do it all on Zoom. You could have done it over the phone. But I met with somebody and they were like, well, what are your
Aspirations.
kind of like goals or
Yeah.
whatever? And I just legitimately like wasn't even really trying to be funny.
Before you say it, we should set up. When you're younger in the business,
Yeah.
these are these meetings, they don't always go somewhere, but they're kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And they, well, at least the people who are hosting the meeting think of themselves as a big deal. And it's a ring kissing moment. You generally
Right.
can go in, or you might say, well, I have these 3 scripts. I'd like to pitch or whatever.
Yeah.
But you went in and what did you say?
Minimum effort, maximum reward. It's kind of my ultimate.
Like-
but isn't that everybody in
Yes!
Hollywood? It's
I
like,
mean, I just love
you would think.
like, is The Rock working that hard? Like, I did a voice, like a cartoon voice, the yesterday before I came, or no, 2 days ago, and there's a lot of like whatever. I was texted my my lover or whatever you call her, and I live in lover.
Cat sitter.
And I was just like, I'm like, this is exhausting or whatever. Like it really, and it sounds like, well, like there's some guy right now, like with oil coming out of an engine into his face, hearing me say it's exhausting to do a cartoon voice for 3 hours. But it is like, I was kind of just like, I kind of have a headache and, this is exhausting. And
Dude, could you give us a sneak peek of that voice? Could you maybe tell Matt Bearden that he needs to go to the doctor because he's having a stroke
I'll
right
go
now?
later. I'll go later.
In that
Are
voice?
you having a stroke?
I may have, yeah.
Oh, well, you know what, guys? If management is listening, I'm moving back to town. So if you need another washed-up comic to take over this show,
Hell yeah.
old BW is available. And I promise
by the
not
way,
to
There's
say the F-bomb.
one failure per show limit here, so I've already got
I
it.
wanted to correct you on one thing. The Rock works extremely hard. I met
well,
someone
I'm
that worked for him, and the reason he looks the same and is the same character in every movie because he's working. Because you go, how can The Rock do 20 movies in 1 year?
Yeah.
He's got 3 or 4 movies shooting at the same time. He jumps in his plane and goes from set to set.
There's actually 5
But
rocks.
it's still like
doesn't even-
there's a machine.
There's 5 different rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to like.
No, I know.
I didn't mean to diss your boyfriend, The Rock. Captain Ass Kisser over here. He's not going to give you a job. Okay.
No, I know.
He's trying to
But
get a meeting over here, Brendan.
I don't want to know.
I always wonder why he never does any acting.
I don't
though.
want
He's always
another-
like the same character in every movie.
But
It's
even then,
because he-
it's
I
like,
don't want another Tim Dillon situation on our hands.
what did he do?
Tim made fun of Bourdain, and it really got.
Oh, he did a whole
Bob.
routine. He did a whole
He just
chunk
kept talking about how Bourdain was burning in hell, and he's a piece of crap, and it was really bothing Bob.
This was
About
like a week after he died.
yeah, well,
That's edgy.
yeah.
Timely, too.
I forget what I was saying. Oh yeah, just the minimum effort, maximum reward is and like the cart, like Amanda said something like, oh, I'm sorry or whatever, and I was like, just don't. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I'm complaining about doing this voice, but like, where else can you get like this money for
3 hours
for
of
making noises for 3 hours?
Right.
Yeah. I'm just like like that was literally what it was like. Some kind of like monster guy. Okay, now could you do it like like a little just more? Okay, yeah, sure. And I'm like in my living room doing it. I didn't have to go to a place.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yes.
I just had a setup and yeah. I mean that's the best thing. That's another reason for it's 9/11.
Never forget.
Never forget.
Did you
Never
have that
forget
set
this.
up pre-pandemic, or was that something you were like, nobody's meeting anymore, I'm going to make a home studio or something?
I mean, everybody has a home studio. I mean, it's really the for $100, you have basically
A studio.
a studio. I mean, as long as you don't have, your kid
Ugh.
screaming or like,
They're the
you
worst.
just need a quiet
Well,
space in it. I
that's
mean,
not
your
something-
iPhone. You can do a whole podcast
and
just
the
in
best
voice
studio
memos.
is in a car in your garage. The
Yeah.
car is a great acoustic environment.
Or someone else's car. Break into a car,
there you
kids,
go.
if you're listening.
No, I've
Break into a
gotten in my
record a
car
podcast.
with a phone and recorded spots, and no one was any the wiser.
Yeah.
Let's get in. I want to ask you about this because the last time we saw you, you didn't have kids.
I have 2 kids now.
Wow.
And you
Yeah.
actually have real
Yours?
kids. Now
Kidnapped them.
you had fake kids for a while on the internet.
Yeah, I had Trevor and Trish.
For a long
I had
time,
a family.
you had a
on
family,
Twitter.
and you were running all these different Twitter accounts,
know.
and they were all different family members, but it was all you.
I know.
And
Trevor.
and some of them got taken away, but now you
Trish.
have real kids.
Yeah, they don't have Twitter accounts yet. And I still have Trevor, who's been 8 years old for, I think,
Like longer than The Simpsons.
yeah, it's been over 10 years. Because I
Hell
was
yeah.
I think I was touring with Michael Ian Black and was really, because Trish would always flirt with him. And
Right.
Trish was my ex-wife, who was just a real piece of work. And she got her account taken because she lived in Philly with my son Trevor, and Trevor would come out and visit me sometimes.
Right.
And yeah, this was all day. Like when I was single living alone, I'm having these fights with my family and getting completely owned by them too. That was the other thing. I always came out looking like a
Right.
real, like Trish would talk about how I had a small wiener
Yeah.
and how I was fat and like a loser and
my God.
and I just never had a good comeback. But she would also like be tweeting to bars in Northeast Philadelphia and then threaten to throw like a pint glass through the window. And then she'd get her account taken away. So I had to keep redoing accounts for Twitter. And one of my friends in Los Angeles one time, when I was really deep into like, almost maybe had like detached from reality, where I was like fighting with Trish and Trevor, and Trish blocked me at one point. And I just said to her, I was like, oh man, it's like so annoying because Trish blocked me. So I have to like go through this other account to do, and she just was like, you're Trish. She was just like kind of horrified. Like, what are you talking about?
Were there things going on with you mentally in the past where you had a few breaks from reality?
I had like a pretty good, like 15 years ago, had a little bit of a, nervous breakdown or something. I don't know what it was. Never really diagnosed.
No, there
But,
was a time I remember when I talked to you. You were wearing all white.
Yeah, I shaved
You went
my
through a
head. I was
you
wearing
shaved
all
your head
white,
and you went
yeah.
through
Was he
a
wearing
period
like a gown?
Just
like
everybody does.
Yeah,
you
and
go to your
the
No, it was just
discussions.
like,
Oh, okay.
I looked like a painter.
Yeah,
Oh,
I would
okay.
have discussions with you, and you would I would say, hey man, is everything okay?
Yeah.
And then I could tell, like you know how when you're in everyone in the comedy circle is a little broken, so you're not like, oh my god, we have to get him normal. You're just like, oh, I don't think he's gonna hurt himself. It's okay.
Yeah.
He's just exploring. He's exploring and pushing boundaries or whatever. But then you would also, I mean, there were late night calls. I remember you. This was so long ago, but I remember for a while in LA, you were getting in trouble with a lot of comics because you were kind of trolling a lot of them on Twitter. Am I remembering this incorrectly?
I don't.
What
no,
happened
there
with
was
you?
a guy.
What happened with you? Like, remember Mark Maron got upset with you one time.
Did he?
Yeah,
That's pretty big.
I mean, who hasn't he got? That's a bigger story. It's like
who
wasn't
hasn't
Mark?
he?
Yeah, he's every one of his podcasts that I heard is like, all right, so we had beef in the
Yeah.
past. Or like I hated
Okay,
you, or I was.
Good point. You
I
made
mean,
a
Mark's
good point.
not like, and I, as far as I know, I'm fine. You know, I see it whenever
Oh yeah,
I see
and
him
I don't
around.
mean it like because everybody would just go. I feel like you were going through a period where people were finding their breaking point with you, and I feel like
maybe, yeah.
almost the fun you were having is how far can we go?
Yeah.
With this person, and then you were like, okay, now I know. It's like Flight Simulator, but you were having Friendship Simulator.
Yeah. Well, I had, when I lived here, that was me and another guy. I was doing pharmaco studies. Is that still here, where they test drugs
It's
on
called-
you?
it's called something else now.
I don't think
They have
that's
to
the name.
change
They had to change the
It's
name
like-
after you were
It's
there.
like the cable companies.
Exactly.
Well, no, they're just like, oh, okay, let's change our name before we all get sued for something. But me and a friend of mine, he had just started, like, cell phones kind of just started coming out. He worked for AT&T in the middle of the night. So we basically were just like hanging out all day. And the other guy we hung out with had a real job. And I was kind of on this thing like, let's see how far we can push some friendships. And we were like, what should we do to Braden's house? And I was like, maybe we could graffiti on it. And we spray painted. It was a rented house, but we spray painted
I
on
like
it.
that
makes
you
it better.
fixed it. You fixed it by it being a rental.
Someone else's
And it was
problem.
like, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, it was a crappy thing. But so we spray painted on the garage Satan Rules, but we misspelled Satan.
Satan,
It said
the Satin.
Satin Rules. with a pentagram at 666. And he came home from work and like called us and was like, someone graffitied on my house.
Well, what?
And we're just like, huh? You know, like, I mean, he knew it was us, but we never admitted to it. And he didn't care either, too, because he was a funny guy. He didn't, we were all in our 20s, so nobody really. And it was a great way to, because I wound up living in the Satin Rules house.
Right.
I was like right at 30. It was on Red River, like right before like 38th. It was like 38th and Red River, and it's like this garage house, which I'm pretty sure it's still there because I think last time I was here,
I remember.
It's got like I think it's a historic. I think it's got one of those markers on it, so they can't tear it down.
They can't tear down the Satin. They can't even paint over it now. It's like, no changes unless you go through the city.
But this neighbor, there was a neighbor who kept painting over it, and because it was the easiest way to give people direction.
Go to the Satin Rules house.
Drive up Red River before you get to 38th. Look to your right, and it says there's a big pentagram.
Yeah.
It says Satin Rules 666.
So how do you go from that guy, and now you're a dad? Like you live with somebody and you have kids.
Yeah. I mean, you do it. It's like not that, I mean, at this point in our lives.
When I told you that Kara and I were having a kid, I remember telling you we were at Shangri-La bar.
Okay.
And the reason I remember is your response to me, it's almost like I had told you I had a week to live. And you were like, because you were just like, oh, man. All right, Bob, sorry.
Take care of that. Get going on that bucket list as soon as you can, son.
Yeah. And now, because I watch you, and I'm like, oh, you're happy.
Yeah.
You're enjoying it.
How do you not be happy with, like, cute little kids,
Oh, I've been not happy with cute little kids.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you have your moments, but in general, I mean, I guess, I also get the, like, going out for a pack of smokes and never coming back, too. Like, I get that, it's like, oh, I get it,
Sure.
Like, but you just got to be a different, that's just a different type of person or a different time in your life, too. Like, I would say my only regret with having kids is, like, that I didn't do it a little sooner. But that's
our bodies are made to be younger when we have kids. Our brains aren't. My brain would have been terrible with kids in my 20s.
It could have propelled you to, like, I do think, like, oh, if I did have a kid when I was, like, totally broke, and maybe I would have at least put forth
effort,
35% effort.
No,
instead
I
of the
agree
20
with you
I've been
because
coasting on.
I have a completely different work ethic now than I did before.
I still don't really. It hasn't kicked into where I'm like, I grind for my kids.
We're letting you know Brendon is going to do a live podcast taping, World Record Podcast. This is podcast. You can find it in any of your podcast places. Sunday, 7 p.m. at the Vulcan Gas Company, which is down on 6th Street. Yeah. And I think you can check BL Comedy. I think blcomedy.com is where
links
you go.
are up at the Matt, Bob, and B-DOE page at KLBJFM.com for tickets, for Brendon's website, for that podcast and everything.
Yeah, we could give a ticket. Let's give one ticket away, but you have to buy a ticket.
Second one is half price.
You're moving back to Austin.
Maybe. That's kind of, it's on the table.
Why is it on the table?
Well, because Los Angeles is hell filled with demons and snakes. It's just, it's like, it's
but
gotten to the point.
Why isn't it definite that you're moving?
Well, the rest of my family's never lived here. I would have already been back a year or two ago. But like with kids, it's complicated.
Oh, and
with
this
woman that I'm with, whatever you call her, my lover, is that what you call her? We're not legally
the mother
married.
of your children.
Yeah, the
baby mama.
The baby mama. No, I love you if you're listening. She does the podcast with me.
I know.
The A Train, Hellman, her name is. Yeah, that's, it's changed a lot here. I can't afford a house where I would want to, ideally would want to live here.
The house that literally has spray paint on it would be $1 million home now.
Yeah, the Satan Rules house.
Yeah, but you could still for, under about $500,000 you could get a pretty nice spread here for, LA, a place as big as this studio is 1.2. You're not getting anything for less than $1.2 million anywhere.
Right.
You go to a neighborhood where you get stabbed every morning when you leave your house, and it's 900,000.
Wow. I can show you
that's
some
a
properties
deal.
in this neighborhood
Yeah.
where you pay that much and you have that opportunity as well.
Yeah, I want you to still feel at home. I
Yeah.
don't want no culture shock or whatever.
Well, I live in a great neighborhood, and I've lived in the same area the whole time I've lived in Los Angeles, and I love it there. And you know, we had another kid last year, and it's like we need a bigger place, and
Right.
it's like, okay, we could move if we stay in the neighborhood. We could rent a 3-bedroom house for $6,000 a month, and like buying a house is out of, you know, it's like,
Oh,
okay,
sure.
or I don't know, murder my whole family, and hopefully there's enough money to put a down payment on a $2 million house.
You're not going to put forth that much effort.
No, and I love my family. I wasn't talking about you, honey, if you're listening, not you and the kids. I'm talking about the older generation of my family. But yeah, it's kind of, and like I said, the last couple of years, it's kind of proven that Zoom, you don't have to be anywhere, really.
Right.
Unless you're like for, you know, LA stuff, like if you have to like go be on set or something. And even then, it would be cheaper for me to live here and fly back and forth on the 2 jobs a year that I get.
Sure.
So yeah, it's like looking at houses here, it's like, oh, you can get a McMansion for, you know, a quarter of the price that you can get something in Los Angeles. This is boring. You listeners don't want to hear this. Let's get to the strippers. Pregnant bikini contest.
Yeah.
I did that. Do you guys still do that?
No, we don't know what we do.
we don't
Everything
know
got
what-
canceled like 2 years ago. We haven't done anything in a
Oh,
hot
right.
minute. Stick around. We've got rugby tickets going out here in just a tad bit. We'll bring Chew back in the room. You're not going anywhere. Hang with us for a little bit.
Yeah,
will you?
yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
Hell
we'll just
yeah.
BS for a little bit, like old times.
Old time.
We'll
BS
BW for a
session.
little bit.
BWBS.
Follow along at MBB Show, and we're coming right back.